Okay, good afternoon. Welcome to our monthly Explorers event. On behalf of the International Federation for Public History, I welcome everybody and I welcome three very special guests that we have today. Today's event is very dear to me because this semester Explorers has the fortune to work with three interns from Macquarie University. They're going to be the presenters on our event today. And this is very significant for me because it's the first time I work with interns, and they have really enriched the Explorers program. So thank you very much and welcome. First, we have Ashleigh Morgan. She's a disabled early career researcher from Australia. She's currently undertaking an internship with the IFPH Explorers, us, program, and as part of her studies at Macquarie University, she is undertaking a Bachelor of Ancient History with a specialization in ancient languages. She's also currently studying biological anthropology as part of a Master's of Archaeological and Evolutionary Science with the Australian National University, having completed a Bachelor Arts degree in 2019 from the University of Wollongong. Thank you, where she majored in modern history and ancient history and archaeology. In addition to her studies, she's also currently involved in the archaeogaming community and has presented her research within this field to both international and national audiences. Then we have Hamish Maclean. He's a third-year undergraduate student at Macquarie University. His studies have focused on prehistory, and he wishes to learn how we can use stories from all periods to help people today. Public history, and this has led Hamish into the study of media creation and the ways in which we communicate, also a big part of public history. And we have Megan Jones. She's in her final year of a Bachelor of Ancient History, majoring in languages and cultures of ancient Egypt and the Near East at Macquarie University. She has had a particular passion for ancient Egypt since she was very young, and is interested in going into museum work, also public history, and eventually secondary and school teaching. Finally, for the ones who know me and for the ones who don't know me yet, I am Jimena Perry. I'm the program manager of the Explorers and part of the steering committee of the International Federation for Public History. Welcome. So we are going to start today having very short first presentations from Ashleigh, Hamish, and Megan, and then we will start like a round of questions and discussions. So Ashleigh, the floor is yours.
Okay, hi, I'm Ashleigh. As Jimena mentioned, I have a collection of degrees. I can't honestly remember when I started being interested in history and archaeology and everything. It's just something that I remember from growing up, and it was the one thing that stuck with me all through school. So I decided to do it into university, and here I am 25 years old, still doing it, still loving it, absolutely loving what I'm doing, and finding more and more things to do and falling even more in love with it. So as part of the internship here, we've been able to interact with the Explorers program and look at different events that have been held relating to different areas of public history. And also, when we started, one of the things Jimena wanted us to help with was how to grow the program and how to expand the program. So a lot of what we've done has been creating different avenues for people to interact with this. So as Hamish will talk about, I'm assuming, he's created a YouTube channel. So all of our videos are gradually being uploaded to the YouTube channel as well as the pre-existing Vimeo channel. Megan's created an Instagram, which is going amazing. And I've worked to create the logo that you can see behind Jimena here. So part of this was also creating a cohesive image for the program so that you can instantly see the logo and different things and connect it with the program. So as part of my outside work, I've worked in youth clubs and stuff and done social media things, as well as student societies, being the president and stuff, doing social media things. So I've had it. Sorry, there's a cat knocking on my door. So of course I want to jump in. So a lot of that has been working around how to create different ways of social media, different social media interactions that are a cohesive image connecting to the one thing, but still interested and engaging. So creating things in different formats across different platforms like Instagram, YouTube. We've already got things on Twitter, on Facebook and stuff, as well as the IFPH website and the blog as well. But with the logo, it just helps to create everything together. You can see it in profile pictures, and anything circular tends to work pretty well because a lot of Twitter and Instagram, the logos go circular. So that was definitely something I wanted to look at within that. So yeah.
Thank you, Ashleigh. I want to say that the logo has been like a very good addition to the Explorers program. We hadn't thought of that before, and I think it has been very. It has advanced the program because now it shows up in all the posters and all the media postings, and we have an image that we can recognize ourselves. And I think that also is easier for the people who are seeing us to immediately recognize. Besides, it's a very, very cool logo. You can see it there. And I thank you. I'm very proud of it. And thank you very much. Hamish.
Thank you.
So I've been doing pretty much a lot of editing for the Explorers Club, just going through the old Vimeo videos and analyzing the analytics on those and trying to put that into YouTube. So really what that means is just watching a lot of hours of footage and editing out the umming and ahhing. We're basically looking at two variables. When we're editing, we're looking for viewer attention, which is how long does each individual view last for, and click-through rate, which is basically the percentage of people who, if the video is recommended to them, will click on that. The video analytics, how we've actually processed that, has mostly been analyzing at what point does viewership stop, and then reviewing the footage on that point, and either editing that section out or re-editing it to be faster and more engaging. So that could be anywhere from like just chucking in pictures or rearranging it so it makes more sense is a frequent one. And for the click-through rate, that's basically thumbnails and titles, which are the only factors you can use to actually increase your click-through rate. And especially so in like YouTube algorithms, your videos are in competition with every other video on the site. If your video is recommended, it could be recommended next to somebody giving away $1 million if you click on the video, and you have to convince somebody in just a picture and a title why your video is worth clicking on over that, which is a very difficult thing to do. And it's why I'm sure you've all seen on YouTube people doing like a two hands clasped to their cheeks and their mouth wide open.
Bro, can you shut up? This is just unintended.
You have to convince somebody, and that is basically the hook quote. But yeah, that's basically what I've been doing.
I think we might be having a bit of an issue with the Zoom.
Yeah,
because there's some
but
rude comments that are coming from people who are definitely not saying.
I know that, and but the thing is that I cannot recognize, because I cannot see where that's coming from. I apologize to you and to the audience, and if this continues, we will shut it down and start another Zoom. Okay.
Can I just ask, does everyone in this Zoom recognizable to you currently? I know it's open to, okay, so you know all the names now?
I know the names. Yeah,
okay.
I think the person left. I think that
good.
person left.
We should be,
Yeah.
I think they were just hacking it and making it go funny.
Yeah, okay.
The joys
Just
of the
to-
internet.
Okay, so just to follow up on what Hamish was saying, I want to show you a little clip that Hamish did for the introduction to the YouTube channel. So let me share it with you, please. I'm sorry, I didn't share the sound, so I'm sorry, I have to do it again. I apologize, but I'll do it now. Share sound. Okay. So,
hello and welcome to the International Federation for Public History YouTube channel. This is a channel where we post recordings of all our events and interviews based around public history. And if you don't know what that is, don't worry. It might be one of those things you've been doing your whole life without knowing it. Public history is about more than just history documentaries. It's about the stories that you tell to others or others tell to you, whether they be family, friends, teachers, or politicians. Public history is about the ways in which those stories are told and the moments that they make contact with you as an individual. The IFPH events on this channel are an amazing way to have a look behind the curtain of what goes into those moments and see if they've affected the ways you look at the world. The events recorded are public, so if you would like to participate in one or ask questions, please head over to the IFPH website to see what events might be coming up, or follow us on Twitter and Instagram to keep updated. See you around. Hello.
So thank you. That was just an example because one of Hamish's job has been like to rebrand the videos we have so far. So far we had approximately more than 20 videos and we are producing more and more. And sometimes they get too academic and too lecture-wise. And one of the objectives of the Explorers is precisely to go beyond academy and not to be more friendly with the audience. And that's what public history is also about, like to go beyond classrooms. So we will expand on that later. Thank you, Hamish. Megan?
Yeah, thank you. So like Yuna said, I've just really enjoyed history from quite a young age. Currently finishing up my bachelor's at uni, planning on doing a master's in teaching so I can go on to that secondary teaching. Still hoping to do some museum work because I think that would be really cool. And especially after doing my blog post about Margaret Cock, I was really interested in seeing if I could implement any of her ideas into museum work. It really tied in well with our the unit that we're doing this internship under as well, where we're talking about public history, cultural heritage, all that kind of thing. And I found it really fascinating, some of the things she had to say and how she'd been putting them in into practice. As well as that, I've kind of just been popping around doing a bunch of random things with the Explorers. So I did the blog post. I've been organising the next, not the next event, the event on the 3rd of June with Chris Houston, who's one of my lecturers. And I just found it's very clear he's got a lot of firsthand experience in Turkey. I think he lived in Istanbul for a little bit. And so I'm just really curious to see what he has to say. He doesn't get to talk about it much in the class that I take with him. But whenever he sort of inserts it in bits and bobs, it's really interesting to hear about from him. And I thought that would be really nice to do an event on. Other than that, I've been working on the database of the programs and centres, trying to make sure that that's all up to date, because I really believe that these like universities and all these other centres are ways we're going to spread the information of the Federation around by telling students and telling lecturers and all that kind of thing. That's how the word spreads. It's how more people get involved. And especially as the Explorers are aiming to get it to younger generations, that's where they are at the universities. That's where they need to hear it. And other than that, the Instagram. So that was just the idea I had, mainly surrounding the fact that Instagram to me is a platform that most of our younger generation uses. As far as I've witnessed, it's the most predominant one. Most people I know use Instagram. I think all the people younger than me are still using Instagram. So I just thought it would be really good to bring the explorers onto that platform, because the more younger people are exposed to it, even if it's just sort of randomly popping up on their feed or anything like that. And Humina's great idea with including all the hashtags, that's how it's all going to get spread to younger people. Yeah, that's about it. I've been doing just floating around doing everything. Been having a lot of fun doing it though.
Okay, thank you, Megan. I want to share my screen also because I want to show people your blog post. This blog post is one of the first ones we have. I work in conjunction with Cassandra Marcillo. Cassandra is the editor of the Bridging blog of the International Federation for Public History, and we are trying to get people to write in the blog. So this is the first reflection made of one of our videos. Margaret Koch is the director of the Bullock State History Museum. She made I interviewed her, it was great. And this reflection is one of the first one. It's very good. Actually, Margaret is very happy and very proud, and this has circulated widely through social media. So thank you, Megan. I encourage everybody who wants to keep writing about that. It's good. And I also think that Hamish made a rebranded Margaret's event. I think I'm not sure. If you want to check, just follow our YouTube channel. So thank you very much for being here. And I have now a question for you. Before starting this internship, did you know what public history was? And now do you have a different idea? Let's start again with Ashleigh, Hamish, Megan.
So I definitely come across public history and interacted with public history. And around the same time I was starting the internship, as part of the class we're taking at Macquarie, we have to write a weekly blog post. And the first one was, what is public history? And I went in and I talked about all the different things and all the different ways that public history can be interacted with. And so from things like going to museums, seeing events like this, interacting with news even, through social media, through television, through movies, through documentaries, through video gaming, through so many different aspects of our day-to-day life, that my kind of conclusion at the end was, well, what isn't public history? It can really kind of encompass everything and is definitely not the very staunch, still academic, but somewhat interacting with the public view that I was presented with as part of my high school education and within a general historiographic review of history.
Thank you, Ashleigh. Hamish?
Yeah, I definitely had no idea that public history was like its own discipline prior to the past few months. I had done, basically in my first year of uni, I started a YouTube channel about history just because I thought I wanted to like tell the stories to a wider audience, but public history as a discipline, I had no idea about. And I think that goes for a lot of people who actually operate in the field. They have no idea that they are doing public history. And it is a category that we kind of place on people, which makes it very difficult to define. But personally, I had no idea that I was doing it. But I'm glad that I found out.
Yeah, you and Ashleigh have touched upon a very difficult topic that we're going to address after Megan's intervention, is like, how do we define it? It's very difficult. It could be very emotional because it could be everything, but it could also be nothing at the same time. So let's hear Megan first.
I was just going to say, very similar to both of them, I had no conscious knowledge that I was engaging with it, didn't actually know it was its own discipline, but obviously as a kid who loves history, I was taken to museums. Even within my school, we had a lot of interaction with the Aboriginal community teaching us things. I think that's involved kind of in public history as well. All those kinds of things I definitely had interactions with, definitely had no clue it was called public history. And as an ancient history student, they don't really care about showing you that. So it's good that in my degree, there is those subjects that sort of go, hey, look, there's not just ancient history. Look at this thing called public history. So yeah, the unit that this internship is under is actually compulsory for me, which is good because a lot of the other units just don't mention it in the slightest and are very much just focused on the content about that time period. But I think it's really good to be conscious, like when you're doing an ancient history degree and you might want to go into museums, you really do need to be aware of public history and that kind of discipline. So I think it's really great that I've now been taught and been involved in it.
Yes, thank you. We can trace the origins more or less of public history to the 1970s, more or less. However, I have seen in the last 15 years, perhaps, like a very conscious effort and development of the field. I think we have all, as historians and anthropologists and archaeologists, we have all done some kind of public work sometime, but we didn't know what it was. But now it's like more conscious because a public historian wants to engage with audiences and wants to bring knowledge to the people. We don't like the idea of armchair anthropologists or historians or archaeologists anymore. It's about, if you want, giving voice to the community and co-creating and co-curating and co-writing and things like that. And I think nowadays it's very, very popular and it's gaining a lot of strength. And I think it's very good. It's very good because as public historians, we have to know that we work with people. And if we work with people, we have to have some sense of ethics and things like that. So that makes me also very, very happy. So I would like to ask you, as young people, like starting to develop your development in the field, why would you think the things you have done with the YouTube channel, the Instagram, the logo, the video gaming and stuff are good ways to engage people in public history? Let's start again, Ashleigh, Hamish, Megan.
I think definitely with the outreach and presenting the information in, first of all, a accessible format within the interviews that we do, and then going on and sharing that on the Vimeo channel, the YouTube, on Instagram, on Twitter, through Facebook, through the blog, etc. There's all those different ways that this information can get out to more people and more people can connect with it so that they can begin to realize that, hey, I don't have to go to university and get a degree in history to interact with history. There's ways where I can connect with my own history, my own past, areas of history that interest me, areas of the world that interest me, without the need for going to university, getting a degree, and then going into whatever path to interact with it that way. It doesn't need to be as cordoned off. It's public history. It's available to the public, for anyone.
Thank you, Hamish.
Yeah, I agree. The making it as available as possible is definitely a big aspect, but I also think more specifically on the mediums, that as sad as we might think it is, because we come from academic backgrounds and we operate basically on PDFs and written formats, that is just not going to be present moving forward. We've got about 2 generations of people now growing up with specific, like, they've basically been raised on videos and audio files for their entire education. And then we're going to be pushing them into academics where PDFs and written work is the only present format. So I think as we move forward, just basically videos and audio files will have to adapt to academics. I think a big reason that academics move so slowly and it's so hard to incorporate into the public is that it comes with this glacial pace of, you have to have like 100 citations in your bibliography, and every footnote goes for half a page. And it's just not only is that unappealing to a public audience, it doesn't translate into visual formats. You can't have a half a page citation on visual formats. And I think the big adaptation is going to be moving, the reason visual formats are becoming important is because we grow up in that environment, but the biggest thing we're going to have to work out is how do we incorporate that body of academia into those formats, because currently I don't think they're transferable. But
yeah, no,
yes,
that implies really a challenge for traditional or conventional academia, because also after the pandemic, we are seeing also that the students' span attention are shorter. And so we have to be like more, how do you say, more friendly, more engaging, more active, more dynamic. And that implies changes not only for public history, but I think also for the exercise of teaching. And I think public history is a very good tool to use in those scenarios. And Megan?
I've got to say, yeah, I just really agree with what both of them have said, just making it more accessible, making it more appealing to these younger audiences as well. I think universities would be such a great breeding ground to spread the sort of IFPH message and get them involved in our resources and everything like that. I forgot what I was going to say now. I had it off the top of my head. Oh yes, what you were saying about the shorter attention spans. There we go. I think that's definitely a big thing. And I think it's kind of, we can't help the fact that our younger generations, including us, are sort of very much involved in this technology aspect of it. And I think in some ways we just need to lead into it. If we want these organizations to survive and to keep going, we need to lean into this more modern way of communicating. So even, for example, this show's not even that modern, but Horrible Histories. Like, I don't know if you've seen that, Himna, but it's very popular. We all love it. It's on ABC. And it's basically just a bunch of British people that have made history funny, made it entertaining, made it engaging, but it's still informative. Like, that they put a lot of effort into making sure that they're not, like, sometimes it can be a little colloquial, like it's not entirely accurate, but it's good enough that people watch it, they get the general gist, and that's kind of what encourages them to go research it more. So personally, I loved Horrible Histories when I was younger. It was like my favorite TV show. And it really encouraged my love of history. I was like, yes, this is amazing. I want to keep going. I want to study it at university. And now I am, and I still love the show. I think by doing things like that, even on Instagram, like that, and like the YouTube channel as well, there's such good ideas to just get that ball rolling, and to keep up. I mean, the Instagram's doing great already. The YouTube looks amazing. Like, I think we've been doing a good job of it personally.
Yeah, you answered the question I had next, Megan, because I was thinking. No. I mean, it's great. It's great because I think it's a good transition, because I was going to ask you, what kind of public history projects do you think are successful? And when I also think about, for example, my own exercise as a historian, I work in a college, like any college, and I have to teach let's say conventional history classes, and sometimes I find it very difficult to make students participate. And I have found that when students participate the most are where they feel part of this topic, and when they can express their opinions, and where they have some debate or something is telling them something to them. And I think using public history tools for that, it's when it's effective. So like the TV show you were talking about teaching, but can Hamish and Ashleigh think about other instances that you think public history would be like a successful exercise to make engagement possible?
I'll let Hamish jump in first. Sorry, Wayne.
Yeah. I think very important in that question is how you define success. Public history is such a humongous field that, and there's so many different ways to be successful. Like I could make like a 1-minute video, put it up on TikTok, and it's just like a single fact about Egypt or whatever, and it'll probably get, I don't know how many views if you make it correctly, thousands easily, because TikTok is like
even
so
millions.
Yeah, TikTok creates so many views, but if you're looking for like actual deep interaction with somebody, that is just terrible. You've failed already. So I think assessing how you want to be successful is the most important thing. Also, how you want, what kind of audience you're interacting with is another big part of it. Younger audiences, obviously, you need to approach in a very different way to older audiences. But I think where public history, most public historians, I think, will say they want to be somewhere in between. They want to make people think about it, but they also want to have enjoyment. And I think creating content that that is interesting, but also proposes questions to the viewer is the most effective way of doing that, because that's going to, I think Margaret Koch was saying this in her interview, which I really liked, was giving the burden of research to the viewer, or like encouraging them to take up their own research. If you can accomplish that in however long a time, I think that is how you become successful in public history, because you can do that in a 1-minute video and you can do that in an hour if you encourage somebody to look into something themselves. That is the most successful form of public history, in my opinion.
Thank you, Hamish. And I think also what you and Megan mentioned about making history fun. When I was trained as a historian and as an anthropologist long ago, it wasn't about having fun. It was about gaining knowledge. So I think that's also a big change that the social media platforms, another outlets for public history can help precisely to get public history out there to younger audiences. Ashleigh?
I think, yeah, definitely the interactability of history and public history. So making it available on Instagram. So as you're just scrolling down and something will pop up, you can learn something through there. On TikTok, it might pop up on your For You page, which there's a whole weird algorithm behind it that shows you different things you might like. So there's a chance of any video that's posted going viral, which if a video that goes viral has historical knowledge, great. So many people have seen that and have taken in that knowledge without physically being forced to interact with history by either in a classroom or in a museum or like watching a documentary. And a lot of what I do as well outside of my studies is I do work in archaeogaming. So I look at a lot of popular video games and see how the information is presented within there. So I spoke in 2020 about the representations of mythology within a few blockbuster games. So I spoke about the 2018 God of War, the 2 of the games from the Uncharted franchise, which has just been turned into a movie a few months ago, as well as the recent remake of reboot of the Tomb Raider series, and spoke about how they interacted with Norse mythology, with biblical mythology, or like so many different types of mythology and how it's represented to a common audience in a way that they can absorb it naturally and they, without even intending to, and like they'll sit down to play a game, God of War, get to run around with an axe, kill people, stress relief, whatever, but they then walk away with more knowledge of Norse mythology and how these things work, as well as ancient Greek mythology in some of the previous titles. And last year I started working with Assassin's Creed Valhalla, which focuses on the Norse Viking occupation of areas of Anglo-Saxon England, as well as the wars, fight for power between the 4 different states kind of within England. So within even just playing the game, which again, you get to run around with either an axe or a sword and whatever. A lot of people are drawn to Assassin's Creed because of the stress relief, the fun you get with it, but they still walk away with knowing about different historical characters and how all of this thing, people walk away knowing that these different areas didn't always work in conjunction, that there was political strife between them, each fighting for their own kingdom or area, as well as interactions and negative interactions between the Norse settlers, Anglo-Saxons, as well as the Celtic people within the region. So all those different things people have taken in without even recognizing that they're absorbing this history, which is absolutely amazing to me. Like, video gaming is a multi-billion-dollar industry. It's one of the few industries that actually grew and boomed in 2020, that there's so much we can access there and so much we can interact with to see what's the public learning, how are we doing this, how can we as historians work and improve this, how can we use this and go, hey, you know, this one little thing that we did in this game, here's the actual history behind it. The different things like that, that's, if we can start doing that, and this is me preaching about my tiny, not so tiny area that I love, we can reach a so much wider audience and inadvertently get so many more people involved with the academic side of history. Like, as Megan talked about, the Horrible Histories TV show we watched as kids drew her into history as well. I don't know if this will ring any bells for anyone of any other generations, but the shiny gold Egyptology book that had lift the flap mummification process and all of these things were different ways that we as kids interacted with history, and now so many of us are in the field doing this, creating things for the next generation to further things. And I'm going to stop talking there on my rant.
Thank you, Ashleigh. So let me ask you something as another kind of historian, which I'm not, but how would you answer if I tell you this way of doing history is trivializing history? It doesn't go into depths and doesn't have the rigorous handling of the sources and stuff. How would you answer that in that regard as public historians? Would you agree first? And how would you answer?
I think it definitely, in ways, yes, but as we've seen throughout the development of history over hundreds of years, history needs to evolve to keep up with the times and with the new groups of people coming in to keep it relevant. And then the way that we do academic history now is different to the way it was done 50 years ago, which is different to the way it was done 50 years before that, and all these different ways. So yes, it's different to what's commonly seen as academic rigorous history, but that doesn't mean it's not valid. That doesn't mean it won't become the new academic rigorous history. Yeah.
Thank you, Ashleigh. Megan?
I was just going to say, I don't think it's its role I think it's okay that it trivializes it. The role of these kinds of things like games and TV shows is merely to get people interested. It is just to make history fun and to engage a wider audience. If people seek to look into it further than that, that's where you can go to the proper history with the proper, well, I say proper history, the history with more sources, that's more academic, that seems more history-like. I think it is totally okay that these games trivialize it a little bit. Like I said, it's not their role to be the straight facts, to be the straight sources. They're forms of entertainment. That's what they are first and foremost. That's all I wanted to add.
I like that answer, actually. Hamish?
I think there's a lot of elements to that question. Most of all, how we should transfer the academic bodies of research, which can pretty much only exist on on paper. They can pretty much only exist on in writing, because you've got this massive freight train of citations, and you're trying to bring about 100 years of history, and you're trying to attach it to one engine, and it's just trying to drag it along. And how we should transfer that into other mediums is a massive question that I don't have the answer to. But in terms of trivializing, I think I do agree with that in some ways. And I think public history, while yes, first and foremost, it needs to be entertaining, especially in this day and age, I don't think it's got these two aspects of, like, one is trying to release dopamine in people. Like, you're trying to make a video game or a video that makes people feel good, or it releases serotonin in some way. And then the other aspect of it is you're trying to make it deeper than that. And I think that's where the trivialization comes in. And I don't even know if academics really accomplish this aspect of history, but it's like, why is this important? It's one thing to make it entertaining, but it's an entirely other thing to instill the importance of that into somebody. And I think that's where it becomes a bit trivialized, but it's a very difficult thing to do.
Yeah, I agree. But I also like very much Megan's answer, because it's okay. If we want to be friendly and attract new audiences and stuff, we don't have to dump on them all the academic training we are used to. So I agree with you three. We still have some minutes left, and I would like to know if you have questions among you three. If Hamish has questions for Megan and Ashleigh, or Ashleigh for Megan and Hamish, or Megan for Ashleigh and Hamish, about the things you have done, about how you see yourselves as public historians in the future, comments about your work, etc.
Yeah, I would really like to. My biggest question and thought is where do you guys think public history is going in future? How do you think it's going to end up?
Would you like to go, Ashleigh? I'm happy to. I don't want to step in and just butt in. So,
yeah, you go. It'll give me a bit more time to think.
Okay. Ideally, I would like it to just grow and be bigger. I said in my blog, and I'll say it again now, I really love the stuff that Margaret Cox done in her Texas museum, with making it like such a welcoming place, making sure communities want to go there, using spaces for other things. So people come to the museum and, oops, I've stumbled across something else now. Oh, look, it's history. Like that kind of, what else was she saying? Making the language simple, but engaging still for people, so a wider audience is able to sort of enjoy it and be happy with it. I think seeing that spread on a wider level throughout all museums, because once again in my blog I commented, in a lot of Australian museums I don't feel that. What she was describing about her museum in Texas, I don't feel that warmth, I don't feel that aura. To me, I mean, some of them sure, but the big main ones still will very much formal. I'm a museum, this is for history. And yeah, they'll have a couple of Aboriginal exhibitions that are just tucked away in the corner, still in very cold, stoic rooms that I'm just sort of like, this doesn't feel very cultural in the slightest. It would be so much better if this was like interactive, if you had actual Aboriginal people in there talking, like with her mental health Mind Matters exhibit. They were saying that you had survivors and just new people there all talking to each other about it. And I think this kind of discussion is what is going to help public history stay alive. It's just stop making history so exclusive and so specific to people who are professionally studying it or studying it in university. I don't think that's necessary. Involve everyone, get everyone. Doesn't mean everyone has to publish something, doesn't mean everyone gets to publish something, but having this discussion is how people learn, how history gets spread and all that kind of thing. And personally, I think, yeah, I've said the universities thing like 20 billion times, but I think that's somehow, I don't know how, but getting it more involved in universities, getting these organizations, more subjects in public history. When I was doing the programs and centers thing, And I was having a look at all these universities and what public history things they offer. I haven't even had a look at Macquarie's, but I don't think we offer nearly as much as some of these places do, with specific majors and masters in public history. I don't think we do things like that. I don't know, but I think
we
that would
offer
be great.
more than in public history than most other Australian universities as well.
Yeah. We're supposed to be good for history, but it just doesn't look that way compared to some places overseas. Still a great uni, but I'm just saying, there's more degrees like public history. I think, especially as it is a growing discipline, would be very beneficial in universities. And that's how you'd get federations like the IFPH and the Explorers as well. That's subjects like that is how you'd get them to spread to more areas. But yeah, I'll shut up now.
No, you don't have to shut up. Thank you,
Anything.
Megan. I was thinking also about the example of Margaret Cock. She's amazing, yes. And I also think she has done a very good job, because she not only devotes like a lot of attention to the exhibitions and like how to involve people in the actual display and stuff, but she also does a lot of festivals that include, for example, dances or making crafts or activities with families. So the museum becomes not only this place for displays, but a place to go and hang out or to dance or to eat something nice or to watch a movie. And I think that has been very well. I'm a fan of hers. So, I mean, I could just brag about her all the time. So Ashleigh, I'll give you the floor.
I think public history is going to develop organically with the world. Like, we've already seen changes within how we interact with public history. Like the Explorers Project as a whole, for example, like a lot of these interviews and everything wouldn't happen if we didn't have the internet, if COVID hadn't have forced everything online. It'd be a lot harder to interact with things. And I think we're going to see public history grow internationally, not within, we'll see it within communities, but as a international global thing with more connection worldwide. A lot of people now are reaching out, trying to find their own personal histories of their family, whatever. So there'll be a lot more interaction of people going, hey, I want to know about this. My mother moved over from England in 1970. So I can go back and now with the internet look at, oh, what was going on there? What's happening where she moved from? What was going on there? Everything like that will get me involved in public history and so many more other people in ways extremely similar than that, as well as through different social media things, like as we talked about, TikToks, podcasts, YouTube, on Instagram, etc. All these ways that people will interact with it. And historians, we're kind of selfish. We want our work to be seen. If historians want to survive and still be relevant, everyone's been forced to go online to present these things in different ways. And I think we're just going to see that flourish from now on within like 10, 20 years, especially with all of our current generation graduating and going either into teaching and spreading this knowledge onto the younger generations as well, or into academia and exploring all these different avenues that may not have been available to our professors, for example. It's going to happen whether we like it or not. And as history has done a million times before, it'll evolve to where we are now and where we'll continue to go.
Thank you, Ashleigh. Now, Hamish, would you like to answer your own question?
I think Megan and Ashleigh had fantastic answers. The only thing I would add is I think I would really like to see in future the money situation in history. I don't think gets enough attention, and I think the way forward with that is through public history. Public history is going to be the number one way to get money, and I hope that in future public history can. I mean, it's effectively through advertisement. Clicks and viewership is the major commodity of the 21st century, and I think if public history can adapt into a space where it's doing very well, in that regard, then we can build more and more momentum to get more money and therein create more public history, which I think will be very important.
I think that's a very important point, actually. And I think also historians in recent years have noticed that they can provide services in many areas. For example, as consultants in documentaries, in computer science, tech companies, places where the money is. And that's also very important, like to break the stereotype that historians have to be like poor all the time. No, that doesn't have to, that's not the case. And it's not happening. I don't know if Megan or Ashleigh have other questions for you.
I've got another question.
Go.
Why do you think public history is important, and why do you want to connect people with history? Why do you think it matters?
I think it's very.
Oh. Sorry, delayed. You go.
I think that it's going back to what history was. So within academic professional history now, we're starting to use more oral history sources and talk to the people involved and look at what's left rather than just the articles and the journals and the books and what other people have said on this topic. And history, this is my ancient history background, for so long has been based on oral histories and what's left. How can the living people interact with their past? And it's going back to what it was in a more roundabout way that, I think public history in the way that we're looking at it now was inevitable. There's no way that you can completely take history and interactions within history away from the public and lock it behind academic professional doors.
If I could challenge that slightly, but why do you think it's important why do you think it's important that the public get those stories, and why do you think it's important that that history is disseminated?
It's a natural thing.
Their story.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. It's our own story. We want to know, like, humans as it is are sentimental beings. We keep things from our childhood. We keep things that have meaning to us. As well with that, we also keep our personal histories, our family histories, the history of our communities, the history of our countries, now the history of the world entirely.
Megan?
Yeah, I'd just add to that, you can't keep their own history from that. I think Ashleigh said that as well. I also think, sorry to tie it back to Margaret Cock again, I really enjoyed her video. But yeah, she was saying that within Texas, there's a lot of different people with a lot of different experiences of the history of Texas. And I don't think it's appropriate to form academic histories of somewhere, something, an event, anything like that, based off what you can find from what other people have written. Why would you not go straight to the source? People who have heard stories from their own grandparents or people who were there when it happened. Why would you just base it off newspaper articles and just sort of artificial writings and things like that, when you could go straight to the source? And I think that's a lot of what public history is about. Straight to the source, involving as many people as possible. That way you get as many viewpoints as possible, as many experiences as possible. And that creates the most broad history as you can. You don't need to exclude people. It's not an exclusive discipline. I think it's silly making it exclusive. We're not going to know everything. Historians cannot know everything. I think that's something that ancient history has really taught me, is just accept the fact you will never know the facts. You can only speculate. And I think it would be naive to go, especially with modern events, modern people. it would be so naive to accept that you'll never know the facts when you can go talk to the facts. You can go speak to the people who were there, who experienced it. So even just within Australia, if you're going to do an exhibit on Aboriginal people, go talk to some Aboriginal people, get some Aboriginal people involved. Doesn't matter if they're not disciplined in history, they're Aboriginal people. That's the source. Yeah, I think
because they don't have a degree doesn't make their experience invalid.
Exactly. But in saying that as well, don't exclude people with a degree. I'm sure they'd have some very valuable things to say on it. And that's the whole point. Include everyone. And I think to conclude, yes, public history is very important to me. I think it will be very important in the future, including communities, especially Hamish, when you were saying with the money thing, that's something I hadn't thought of. I definitely experienced, but hadn't thought of. I think public history, like you said, is going to be the way that we get these funds in. And if you make it so if you make history so exclusive and only include academics, then you're not going to spread it. It's not going to go wide. It's going to stay exclusive, which I think is selfish because history is beautiful. I think it needs to be with everyone.
Especially just going back to the money thing, within Australia, a lot of like academic grants and stuff come from the ARC, which is the, I think, Australian Research Commission. And so when you apply for these grants, one of the major things is, how is this important to Australia? Why should we fund your program? What will you do for everyone else? Why you're not having the money just for you? Why should we give you money to spread what you're doing? Basically, it's, yeah.
Thank you, Ashleigh. And now Hamish, we want to hear from you.
Yeah, those are great answers. I think I think the why of history, like why do we do history, isn't addressed enough. And I think in large part, it's like, why would a story about Rome mean more to us than just a made up story about fantasy or whatever? And I think it's because the present moment only ever, the moment we're in right now only ever has meaning from history. And we get our, I know this is a bit of a dirty word in academics, but spiritual, like what we feel like spiritually, we draw from the past, I think. And I think that's why history is so important, because we're instilling people with meaning. History is what gives everything meaning. And I don't think in that way history is, the word history is like a suitable category, because when we say history, we think like, okay, Rome, Aboriginal people, museums, stuff like that. But really history is everything. History is like all culture, all meaning is derived from history. And I think that's why public history is so important, is because we're literally trying to instill more meaning into people now. That's why our stories are so they can touch people more than just made up stories, I think.
Thank you, Hamish. If you would like to wrap up with a comment or a final remark, we have time for that. If
I have
not,
one last question, if that's all right.
Of course.
I want to ask Hamish and Megan, where from this internship, how has your personal future changed? How are you taking the knowledge you've learned and the skills you've gained and using it to shape your future, however you instill it? Like, if you're not going to.
Well, personally, because I either want to both, hopefully, but go into museum work and teaching, I think being able to practice the way I present information to people, the way I reflect on things, so through the blog, and then through the Instagram as well, it's been good to practice that kind of thing and visualize it and see how other people are interacting with it. And I think those skills are going to be very helpful, particularly with the blog, even not just me writing it, but reading what Margaret Cock had to say, an experienced person within museums and the field I found that so helpful. It gave me a lot of inspiration for what is possible in museums. And like I said, I think Australia could really benefit from some of that. So if I could ever get into the museum field, which is quite tricky to get into, I would love to implement those similar sort of ideas and practices, because it just looks amazing, the work she's done, such a welcoming community she's created surrounding this museum, which is something that's just unheard of. In history, museums have always been such a formal, strict place, and it's so good to see them becoming this area of community. And then just in teaching as well, I'm going to have to be interacting with young people, and the more fun and engaging I can make history, the better. I would love to see, because it makes me so sad seeing students be like, oh, history is so boring, you just have to remember dates and facts. And that's all I heard throughout school, as someone who was doing 5 units of history. I was like, you're speaking to the wrong person. I love it. And it just made me really sad to hear kids talking like that. And I would love for kids to be able to view it in a different way, and to be able to see how they've benefited and interacted with history, and that it's not so boring, and that it's not just dates and facts, and it can be so much more. And now I'll let Hamish talk.
You're muted.
It looks like he's struggling to get his mic off.
Oh, I see. So while he struggles, Ashleigh, would you like to answer your own question?
I think, yes, definitely the way we can bridge the gap between academic history and public history, and getting different stories out in as many mediums as possible, and interacting in all these different ways, and reaching out to younger generations and everything. That, yeah, it's invaluable skills. This internship is something that has been amazing. It's connected me with so many people from so many different areas that, yeah, it's, yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. I don't know why that was happening. Yeah, I want to get into public history as a career, and like I was saying, like I made a YouTube channel about nearly a couple years ago now, trying to make I retrospectively it was public history, but at the time I just wanted to like share history with people. So this internship has been fantastic. In my favorite bit has been seeing people who can actually make a difference in people's lives nowadays using history, and that's what it should all be about.
Thank you. Thank you very much to all 3 of you. It makes me very happy to hear you say that, because as I mentioned at the beginning of the event, this is the first time the Explorers has interns, and I think it has been great for me and for the project, for the Federation. And if it has worked for you as well, it makes me extremely happy. So I want to thank you for this event, for all your interventions. And I would like to invite you to our next event, that is precisely with Megan's guest, Chris Houston. He will talk about politics, nationalism, and memory in Turkey. You will interview him, so I think that's going to be great. I will, after the recording is processed, I will send it to you. And thank you very much. I hope to see you again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.